Hey, what's up, everybody? Pat here, gratefully recovering alcoholic and addict, just like every day. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe, leave the video a like, drop me a comment, and by all means, share it with anybody you think might get something out of it. Other than that, how we all doing today, guys? Happy Monday. I had to think about what day it is, right? Wet, rainy day in Boston today. I was talking about it a little bit yesterday. Yesterday was my first full day off this year. And I thought I was gonna have a really light week, and it's beautiful that I actually write things down. I keep notebooks everywhere because I get up this morning. I specifically not planned anything first thing because I had a something to do with the phone. I was trying to get to another state, and they're notoriously it's a DMV in Rhode Island. You can't call down there. But I tried. I decided I'd get up first thing and start calling the second that the phones turned on. Sure enough, it worked. I got through. And then I went and looked at one of my notebooks and realized I've been so busy lately that there's all sorts of little things that weren't priorities that I was behind on. And what I thought was going to be a very light day ended up being a very busy day. Not overly busy, but it was a very productive day. It was amazing. I got so many things knocked off my to-do list, and ended up making a very profitable day out of it. And fortunately, as a matter of fact, I got a call after I do my video and schedule a couple things. But yeah, it's going to be a great week, and I'm hoping it will stay a lighter pace because I realized I have a lot of stuff that I need to get done that people weren't rushing me on because they knew there was emergencies. But yeah, I mean, this is beautiful how it works out like that, right? And you know what the reason I'm able to do these things again because I'm writing things down, I'm journaling, and I'm taking my inventory, and that spills over into me motivating myself and then writing down things that I would have totally forgot about and miss out on an opportunity to A, help out customers, and B, make money on, right? It's absolutely beautiful. The Just for Today NA meditation is titled The Inventory, in case you hadn't guessed. And again, it's one of those things, guys, that I just never gave a moment's thought, even when I heard about it talked about in recovery before. I hear these things and I thought there was just like a mental, something you glossed over, not understanding that all the steps in recovery, all this, whether it's the 12 steps of recovery or whether it's the suggestions that we hear in the meetings or anywhere else, they're action steps, guys. And when you do them, they make a difference in your life. Inventory being one of the things I gave the least credence to, and it has made one of the biggest differences in my life in so many different ways, and it's a really important thing. So let's talk about it. The Just for Today NA meditation is titled Inventory. The purpose of a searching and fearless moral inventory is to sort through the confusion and contradiction of our lives so that we can find out who we really are. Using addicts are a confused and confusing bunch of people. I know I was. It's hard to tell from one minute to the next what they're going to do or who they're going to be. Usually, the addict is just as surprised as anyone else. When we used, our behavior was dictated by the needs of our addiction. Many of us still identify our personalities closely with the behaviors we practiced while using, leading us to feel shame and despair. Today we don't have to be the people we once were. Today we don't have to be the people we once were shaped by our addiction. Recovery has allowed us to change. We can use the fourth step inventory to see past the needs of the old using life and find out who we want to be today. Writing about our behavior and noticing how we feel about that behavior helps us to understand who we want to be. Our inventory helps us to see beyond the demands of active addiction, beyond our desire to be loved or accepted. We find out who we are at the root. We begin to understand what's appropriate for us and what we want out of our lives. And what we want our lives to be like, excuse me. This is the beginning of becoming who we really are. And then the affirmation is just for today. If I want to find out who I am, I will look at who I've been and who I want to be. And guys, again, I love this, guys. I look at these readings, and every single time I read one, it brings me back to a specific place somewhere along this road, or it's exactly what's going on with me today. And as soon as I read the line, helps us feel, excuse me, that's pretty bad, right? Anyway, not knowing who I was, right? And again, that's when the addict never knew. Even the addict was surprised to find out who was going to be in any given moment. And guys, it brought me right back to the drive to rehab on December 13th of 24, and literally I was so overwhelmed because I knew I had to do this, but I didn't know how. I didn't know, and literally that was the thing that just kept coming out of my mouth. I've been doing this so long, I don't know who I am, and that was just so overwhelming. I was choking up. I was breaking down, and I share that freely today, guys, because you know what? It's part of it. If I'm going to share my journey of recovery, I got to be honest and authentic with you guys. And literally, it was that overwhelming, and like that's a horrifying feeling. Talk about terrifying. What's to come? That's where surrender comes in, guys. Okay, boom. I accepted that. Okay, well, I don't know who I am. That's something I need to work on. It's not going to happen this minute. So let me just focus on the first step, and that was getting my ass to rehab, getting myself checked in, and detoxing, getting off the drugs. I was still high as a kite at that point. I finished the last of my drugs as I walked out the door to go to rehab. Like most of us. But little by little by slow over and again, I'm still learning who I am. I'm by no means am I there. And again, I'm not here in a teacher role, guys. I'm here in a active participant sharing my experience, and just trying to be honest with you guys. So I was terrified, and one of the one a major revelation I had was, well, part of the reason I was in such conflict, and that's why I love when I read that, like the confusion and the contradiction. Well, yeah, my life was an absolute contradiction. I realized it immediately. Like, you look at who I am on paper, and I look like this like hardened criminal, like lifelong habitual criminal, and then you look at the person and I'm like, no, like I was getting caught because I wasn't paying attention to things. I was putting myself in reckless and situations and doing illegal, immoral, and stupid things. But at the same time, I would draw the line at certain things. Like when I'd start to use, I'd get away from friends and families because I refused to let them see what I was doing, and I refused to steal from them. And I'd just go out and work for people that would work jobs that were way below me. And not to say that I did anything. I mean, guys, don't get me wrong. I stole and everything else. Of course, I did. I was an active addict. But I tried to maintain the status quo. I tried to be the best person I could, and I would remove myself from friends and family because again, there was good in me. That's not a lifelong hardened criminal. But that's what I look like on paper, and there was that contradiction. Then, because of the persona I had as a young person, and I was a wild, crazy kid. Because again, I was hiding how I really felt and how lost I was. Like, boom, like everything was just starting out with one contradiction, and then playing into that role, and then developing another contradiction, and unfortunately, it's horrible to admit, but that carried on for 30 plus years, to the point where when I finally went to look at things, because guys, this is the only time I've ever given myself over to a program. When I've gotten into recovery before, it was because of people, places, or things, not because I wanted it. It was because I'd been run out of a town, I'd gone to jail and had nowhere to live, need to get to a halfway house so I could find a job and get, you know what I mean? Like, it was never because I just hated what I was doing and couldn't bear to do it anymore. And as much as I would get clean and I'd start to feel a little bit of joy, because, guys, I'm telling you right now, sober life has always been better than addiction life. Like, so I would get a little bit of clean, and I'd get, like, because the person I am, I've come to find out, is very, very capable. So I would start to get material things back, and then I would just shun recovery because, okay, well, I didn't need recovery. I just needed to get to a job, and boom, next thing you know, anything would happen in a situation, and it would lead me right back to recovery because I wasn't acknowledging the problem. And the problem was me. Drugs were a symptom of the problem, the life that I was trying to portray, not giving myself the chance to find out who I really was, and just running out there and living up to whatever anybody in front of me was expecting of me at any given point, and mostly because I was trying to manipulate situations. I don't mean to make it about the mess, but that's despair, that's contradiction. I'm only able to acknowledge that and then change that now because I took an inventory from day one in rehab. Before I even knew I was doing an inventory, just doing the workshops, like what were your triggers, and so many different workshops. I can't, I can't remember half of them. I was a mess. But I remembered the answers I got, and I just did the work honestly and little slowly. And again, it didn't. Even by the time I left rehab, I had no sense of where I was. It's funny. When I started getting answers, I started looking at my behaviors. I was starting to see hope because I was following the program. I was starting to see that I could acknowledge the issues when I looked at them one by one. So I just kept doing more and more work. And it was yeah, I hate when I do that. Anyway, so as I got out of rehab, that's what I was gonna say. Okay, so but then by the time I was finishing up at rehab, I had started. I'd been there for just about 30 days. I was starting to feel good. I was almost capable of speaking a sentence without getting choked up, and my friend Doug was proud, and we were. It was actually Christmas Day. We were talking, and he was like, I'm so proud of you. Do this right, and maybe you can come back to work. And so here I am. I had to go back to the job I was working, but I remember jumping around rehab that night, and I'm like, I might get the best job I ever had back. And again, God wanted better. Me selling myself short because now that job is one of my customers. What I thought would be so great is just one of 40 such clients because I was capable of so much more. As I did the work, I come to see because God's put it in front of me because I've turned it over and I removed. Again, if I went with what I thought was best for me, I would have come home and focused on trying to get, and that's the thing, guys, I get tunnel vision. I see that now. I would have been obsessed with trying to get back the job that I lost 5 years ago. And I would have ignored what is possible because I would have been just focused on that and I wouldn't have taken the time to build my recovery network. I wouldn't have signed up for my IOP. But again, even though I thought, and I get excited over that when I prayed and meditated the next day, I said, whoa, it's not done yet. Like, that's not, he didn't say, come to work with me. He said, play your cards right and maybe we'll see what happens. So stop. That's not a destination. That is a possibility. And again, because I was taking a daily inventory, realizing I wasn't there yet. Somebody else was still doing that job. That may or may not happen. I can't put all my eggs in that basket. Boom, stuff I learned by taking an inventory. Because I looked, well, what happens when I put all my eggs in the basket before I'm signing on the dotted line? I overlook other opportunities. I ignore things that are important. So I said, okay, stop. Again, remove myself from the equation. Don't put in an expectation or a destination. Just go into things openly and honestly by taking an inventory every day. And I started it in rehab. I would journal every night. What did I like in class today? Blah blah blah. Just sometimes I just free write, and then I go back and read it, and like, oh, good. I'm getting more hopeful every day. I'm feeling better every day. Because guys, that's the other thing. The detoxing was so severe that when I started to get out of bed, and one thing about me is I like to exercise, I like to move, I started trying to just walk the hallway and do pull ups and push ups, and I was absolutely horrified at how weak I'd become. And I'm like, so in the beginning, I'm like, have I done it? God, this is bringing back Jesus, this is overwhelming stuff. I was honestly convinced, and I remember journaling that one night. Have I done? How much irreparable damage have I done to my body? What are my limits going to be? Because I didn't know. I'd been medicated, with that superhero strength that wears off every 3 hours for, decades. So again, by taking inventory and seeing that, I said, well, I get home, and I'm like, well, that's something that's very important to me. So what do I got to do about that? Well, let me go join the gym. And I went and I joined the gym the week I was home. And boom, here I am. Like I literally just started that on video talking about it, guys, and that just makes me so happy because I was so terrified that I'd done all this irreparable damage to my body, right? And again, God is so good because that was one of my fears. He put it in my field of vision. I took action to correct it, and he gave me miraculous results. Here I am, 14 months later, bench pressing 405 pounds. If you told me that day I was going to be doing that a year later, I would have laughed at you and said, not humanly possible. Never mind, and that's just a silly thing. But when I started going to my doctors because I was doing good, right? God was rewarding me. All of a sudden I go in and they do my blood work and they're like, when did you get treated for your hepatitis C? I said, well, I didn't. Well, you no longer have it. Your body fought it off. Boom, right? Gift from God. My blood pressure, my cholesterol, everything, because I've had everything regularly tested. Nothing I'd never done for decades. I was running around. I had that skin tag on my face. I was afraid was cancerous. Like I had all these concerns that I was ignoring while I was out getting high there in the back of my head, and none of them. Like I had all this anxiety for nothing because I just didn't go and do the work and get tested. And just another example that recovery has taught me to not fear things, but to face them head on and just be ready to deal with whatever it is. And because I've been getting miraculous results. And I honestly believe it's because I mean, obviously part of it's because I've done the work. You do the work, you'll get the reward. But I've got there faster and gotten more miraculous results because I've learned the power of prayer. I've learned the power of inviting a higher power into my life and believing that that higher power is with me every day. Part of that is believing it's with me every day means I have to act my best and not. I give myself grace when I slip, but when I slip, I don't allow it to continue. I stop and correct it. And guys, again, little by little, little changes, little acknowledgments, little things I've noticed, taking my inventory, and then did a chose to do better the next time around, has made gigantic results. Not immediately, but day in and day out. Coming back and just trying to do this day in and day out. And the only guys, if you're anything like I am, I used to have to learn the same thing over and over again because I didn't pay attention to it. But by taking an inventory and then applying the inventory to my business, to the stock on my truck, to what tools I had, to what customers I have, what jobs do I do regularly, so what can I carry in my truck to have, it's taught me to be a better contractor, a better businessman, a more efficient person. I've come to find out who I am, and I'm still learning. I'm still figuring who I am. But you know what? I have the deepest respect for who I am today. Not that I'm better than anybody else, but for someone that felt so lost, and I understand that today. And again, I'm proud to admit, no, I'm not a biker. No, I'm not an outlaw. Yes, I own a Harley Davidson. It's so important to me that I've yet to touch it in 14 months since I've been home. When the time is right, I'll know, and I'll either fix it up and drive it, or I'll sell it and get a new one, or maybe I won't. I don't know. It's not a priority because I'm not a biker. I love motorcycles. I love my Harley Davidson. But what I am is somebody that's passionate about recovery, has the utmost desire to succeed and put my needs first and prove to the world what's capable and help as many other people out there as I possibly can to leave a legacy of good deeds, good works. So apparently I guess I'm a kind, compassionate human being. Imagine that, right? What more could I ask for? Never mind the fact that I've come to find out that I'm incredibly highly skilled and I have incredibly highly marketable skills. So now you know what I am? This crazy word that has eluded me my whole life. Successful. Any one of you can. Do your inventory. Pay close attention to everything because every single thing matters. And when you make good decisions, good things happen. Guys, that's the video for today. Thank you so much for being here with me. Always remember, God loves you. I love you. We'll see you in the next one.